Hello, my name is Valdo Lallemand. I'm a relationship coach. I created the Vibrant Couple to further my purpose of liberating love through connection and playfulness. Welcome to our series on emotional intelligence. This is video number 2 of a 3-video mini-series on empathy. So last week, the video was on what empathy is, because empathy is very difficult to explain, describe, and learn. This week, I'm doing a video on what empathy is not. And then next week, I will do a very important video on self-empathy. In my coaching practice, I teach a number of classes that I call ateliers. An atelier is a French word for an artist workshop. The intent is to develop our relational art. You can imagine that the classes I teach are very playful. Our next atelier starts this coming Saturday morning, Pacific time, should you be interested, and it is learning to fight. My view is that we're way too serious when we fight as a couple, and we also fight against each other. So my invitation is to learn and practice to fight playfully and to fight with each other. Whether you join us or not, one of the tools I love to use are quizzes, because quizzes are fun. So empathy is A, the ability to understand and sympathize with the feelings of another. B, the ability to sense, imagine, or evaluate other people's emotions. C, the respectful understanding of what others are experiencing. D, criticizing others for the poor choices they are making. And E, interpreting others' intentions. Could it be A? The word sympathize, I am not sure about. So let's do a digression on the power of empathy. We have sympathy, empathy, and antipathy. So what is the difference? So sympathy, we want to get close to someone. An example would be, oh, I'm so sorry to what happened to you. You're my best friend and I hate that this is happening to you. Antipathy is the opposite. We want to pull two things apart. Yeah, I agree. He's a jerk. He should not have done that to you. Empathy is neutral, and that is the power of empathy, because we learn to accept things as they are. So, it is not A. Could it be answer B? So, evaluate. Evaluate has a connotation of judgment, and judgment separates. So, judgment is definitely not empathy. It is not B. Could it be C? Maybe. Could it be D? Definitely not. Criticizing, judging are all on the same bag, so it is not D. Could it be E? Interpretations. I have the sense that most likely not. So, our winner is C. Empathy is the respectful understanding of what others are experiencing. Let's take a look at empathy killers. So, definitely we have criticism, we have judgment, we have blame. Hate also falls in that category, slander definitely, because it pulls people apart. Demands also fall into that category because a demand is something that is felt as something that we have to do. There is some manipulation behind it as opposed to a request when one person say, hey, I would like this, and there is full choice of saying yes or no. Projections, definitely, because when we project onto someone else, we basically don't see the person as is. And one of the key to empathy is learning to see things as they are. Gaslighting. Is gaslighting on that list? Gaslighting is one of the things that narcissists do to others as a way of controlling, manipulating, basically sucking life out of them. So narcissism and empathy are, I would say, opposed, although some narcissists are really good at looking like they are empathetic, but they are not. Because narcissism means self-centered and empathy means being able to selflessly see others. So here I'm putting gaslighting with a really big caution sign. Coming back to our quiz, there is one we have not looked at yet. It is interpreting. You may remember on my first video on empathy, here is the tag, I talked about Marshall's Rosenberg belief that most of the violence in the world comes from tragic expressions of unmet needs. When we look at empathy being the respectful understanding of what others are experiencing, it does not really matter how people express themselves. What is important is learn to hear needs, regardless of how others are expressing them or are expressing themselves. Coming back to our list of empathy killers, I would love to create a third section of behaviors that may or may not be empathy killers. So from response E from our quiz, we have interpretations. As humans, we are meaning-making machines. This is really important. We need to understand what is going on. The challenge there is that most often that meaning-making is used against others. We basically interpret whatever is going on in them, and then we project it on them and we basically blame them for it, which is basically the opposite of empathy. However, it is possible to use interpretations as a way of better connecting and better understanding others. For example, one might say, I have the impression that the passing of your father a few months ago is really affecting you right now and is somehow making it harder for you to play with the children and joyfully do the dishes with me. Trust you see the difference between that way of expressing oneself as a way of connecting, as a way of better understanding, compared to, hey, it's not because your dad died a few months ago that you shouldn't play with the children and you shouldn't do the dishes. The key difference here is emotional intelligence. The ability to know oneself, the ability to know others, the ability to know emotions and learn to manage them. Validations can be empathy killers. For example, yes, I agree with you, he's a jerk or she's a jerk or whatever it is, because then you create separation and you do not validate the other person's experience. You do not seek to understand the needs that were exposed in that painful state they are in. On the other hand, validation with emotional intelligence can be really powerful in a couple. So for example, one might say, yes, darling, I noticed that yesterday when we were with my mother, I somehow sided with my mother instead of supporting you and defending you. I totally understand how you would be furious with me. Trust you see the stark contrast between validation with the intent of separation and validation with the intent of connection. Interruptions are I would call them a strange bird because people do not like to be interrupted. However, it is possible to interrupt others with emotional intelligence. One example of that would be two friends, men, women, it does not matter for the experience, to be talking and enjoying each other and at the same time having the responsibility and care of the children. So one might say, hold on, I just heard something, I need to pay attention to my children and then I'll be back. Goes to take care of the children and then comes back and said, I'm back. So this is an interruption that, well done, does not sacrifice or impede the connection between the two friends. Another interruption that most often is felt as very unpleasant, but in an emotionally intelligent couple can be very easily accepted. You know, darling, I'm falling asleep. I would love to fully hear you. How about we postpone the conversation to tomorrow night? Trust you see that in these two examples of interruptions, and of course these are interruptions with two people that know that interruptions are part of life. And the idea is not to have no interruptions, but to just be emotionally intelligent with when and how we interrupt each other. I hope you enjoyed this short video on what empathy is not. Our next video in the series is self-empathy, because it takes empathy to be able to give empathy. And then, although it is not per se in the emotional intelligence series, there is a wonderful tool that I'm presenting with my friend Monique on empathy guessing. If this video inspired you to develop your emotional intelligence, please hit the like button below and subscribe. I invite you to share this video with as many people you think would benefit, and, really importantly, to not share it with people you believe have strong narcissistic tendencies, because that may backfire on you. I look forward to seeing you very soon.